Okay, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to be talking about how salesforce.com uses the Service Cloud. My name is Karen Versace. I am the product marketer for our customer support organization. And today's discussion is going to start with a presentation with our Senior Vice President of Global Customer Support, Krista Anderson. Then we're going to follow it up with our panel discussion. I'm going to have one question for each of our panelists, then we're going to open it up with Q&A. So real quickly about our safe harbor statement. If you're going to make any purchasing decisions, make sure that you base it on current features and functionality. And we're going to be talking about some of our features in our products, and those are forward-looking statements. And make sure that you make your purchasing decisions based on current features and functionality. And so again, the agenda, we're going to go through our presentation with Krista, and then we're going to open up to panel, and then it's going to be back to you. Krista.
Thank you. All right, can everyone hear me? Yes? Good. Okay, so thanks, Karen. For those of you who don't know me, I know I've met a lot of you in the audience today and past meetings or Dreamforces, whatever it is, but my name's Krista Anderson. I'm responsible for global support here at Salesforce. I've been here for about 9 years, and I think one of the exciting things, at least for the session today, is that we have been using the Service Cloud to run and scale our support organization over the really 10 years of incredible growth that we've had before we were even the Service Cloud. So I'm hoping to give you a little bit of insight into that today, what that looks like. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my perspective, how I manage it, and what I look at on a day-to-day basis. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Atul Nanda. Atul is our Director of Technical Support, and how he uses it and his lens really into the business and what he looks at and how he tracks all of that in the Service Cloud. And then David Dickerson as well. David's responsible for our Premier Support side of the business, and he really takes a different look at and uses the system in the Service Cloud in a different way than you would expect traditionally. So hopefully, between the three of us, we'll give you a good idea of what it looks like and how we actually run our business in the cloud. And then obviously we've got Paul here from LiveOps, and he is going to give us some information on what we do with LiveOps. We'll get to that in a minute. So, as you would expect, we do use the Service Cloud, and we use different portions and have used different portions or pieces of it throughout our years. So as you would expect, we have we use our knowledge management system. We also have some pretty traditional channels by which support cases or inquiries come into us. So phone, email, web, all of those things, web to lead cases, forms, that you would expect. And then as we've iterated over the years and as the Service Cloud has really matured, we've moved into other pieces of it. So starting to use portals, really tapping into the power of community, and then obviously what you saw this morning a little bit in the keynote, but some of the social aspects and how we've really integrated those into our support operation. So we believe, at least, that we are the world's our most demanding customer. So obviously we use this product to support you, all of our customers, but you in turn are also supporting your customers. So we have really kind of a third level of reach when we take a look at what are the requirements that we need, and we hope that that is kind of detailed in what we're going to share with you today. So a little bit about the team. We are a global team. We are Follow the Sun, so we operate 24/7, and we operate across these 9 locations, soon to be 10, and in 11 languages, and about 400 reps. Of those 400 reps, about half of them are outsourced, half of them are actually in-house. And one of the unique things and really positive aspects of the Service Cloud is that all of our outsourced folks as well as our in-house folks are actually using the exact same tools. So with the security controls that you have in Salesforce, they might see a different lens of it, and they certainly don't see all the same information that our folks internally see, but they're working on the exact same tools. So you can imagine that that makes that collaboration from an information perspective, but also from an IT setup perspective and a partnership perspective, pretty easy. 54,000 cases a month. That might be a lot to some of you. That might be very few to some of you. And the message really isn't the number of cases, but it's the complexity that drives those cases. And we're going to get into what that complexity is and how the Service Cloud supports that. So, what do? We support all of our end users. So certainly the people that you see here at Dreamforce today, all of you in the room have the ability to go ahead and call us and call our teams or anyone on our teams. When we first started 9 years ago, this was very unique in the service world, right? So those of you who run contact centers out there know that it's very unique that we actually offer and encourage all of our customers to contact us with questions. In the SaaS environment, it's important that we're able to drive adoption, and we believe that by talking to our customers and interacting, and the more we can reach them, the more channels they give us to reach, more channels we give them to reach us, that we can help drive that adoption. So we need a tool that can support that, right? I mean, on any given day, of course, 1.5 million end users aren't going to call, but we do need something that scales up and down to those volumes and that's able to hold all of that data in one place. That's obviously the Service Cloud. Multiple channels. So we talked about this, but again, phone, email, chat, web, communities. We also work on the same systems with our partners. So with Salesforce to Salesforce, we're able to share information and pass information back and forth between our partners. All of you know, certainly when you're in my role or any of these guys' role up here, you know that it's important when you have customers who are working with your tools and technology and then partners, they really want one throat to choke, so to speak. And that's been a challenge for a very long time in the support world and for folks in our role of how do you go about that and how do you solve that problem. So a tool is really the guy who owns that side of the house, and he can certainly talk a little bit more about that. A range of offerings. So again, this might not be a lot to some of you, or it might be a lot. But there's a lot of complexity, and there are different SLAs, there are different customer types that are really associated with these 4 primary offerings that we offer today. And we need a scalable tool that can go ahead and manage all of the escalation, all of the assignment, all the workflow that really drives to make sure that we're delivering the appropriate and best customer experience to each one of these. And then finally, and clearly, using leading technology. So we talked a little bit about the aspects of the Service Cloud, and today we have a partner on stage with us here at LiveOps, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing with LiveOps and what we've recently rolled out with them to help us in our contact centers. LiveOps is a contact center in the cloud. My clicker is not working. There we go. LiveOps is a contact center in the cloud, and we've recently rolled them out globally to all of our call centers across the world. So what that means is that instead of looking at our agents as really secular and separate groups of individuals, we have a single system that operates in the cloud, very much so like Salesforce. So for those of you who are familiar with how you administer and how you route and how you change opportunities, cases, objects, whatever it is you do with your implementation, LiveOps is very similar in that you have a console by which you can dynamically route calls, change skill groups, skill assets, agent assets, all of that. And Paul can talk a little bit more about that today. Customers love it. So we've only just recently rolled this out across all of our sites, and we're getting really great feedback. It has all the kind of bells and whistles that one would expect in terms of screen pops and caller ID, and our customers are noticing it's making a difference. So moving a little bit into our organization and how we really use the Service Cloud and what drives us, the first thing that we take a look at when we make any decision is customer satisfaction. So we have a host of different surveys that we send out. We have transactional surveys that go out. We have quarterly surveys to particular demographics or particular segments of our customers. And then we have point in time or spot surveys when we just want to know something from our customers. We do all of this with a partner. One of the key messages today is that the Service Cloud is great, but it's not your be-all, end-all. And so you really do have to pick those couple, not a lot, but a couple of key partners who are going to make you successful and who have tight integration into the Service Cloud as we know it. So, like I said, customer sat really drives every decision we make. We've got great customer sat. We meet or exceed industry benchmarks, certainly in Premier, but in basic support as well. So when we take a look at our perspectives today, we have the 3 different perspectives. Myself, we've got a tool, and we've got David. And like I said, we really look at the business from 3 distinct lenses. We're all driving to the same goal of customer satisfaction and the same top-level goals, but in order to get there, we need to do different things, and we need a system that can deliver those different things and items for us. So, I need to stop moving so far away from this. So, what do I look at? I look at really 3 primary metrics on a regular basis. Number 1, are customers satisfied? And I mentioned that we have all of those surveys, point in time, particular demographics, scheduled surveys that go out on a regular basis. And all of those actually feed back with the help of a partner, ClickTools, feedback into Salesforce. So for those of you who use our products today, you know that this is a standard dashboard. We're not showing you the data, but you can see we've grayed some of that out. But this is an actual screenshot of the dashboard that I look at on a weekly basis. So first you've got customer sat, and I'll give you another glimpse or another light into that in just a second. But second, what I look at is red accounts, right? So we have a concept of red accounts at Salesforce, and red accounts can be red because there's a product issue, because there was a service issue, and those are really the two that show up and that I have direct control and responsibility for. But anybody in the company, because we're all on the same instance implementation of Salesforce, so we've got the Sales Cloud, the Service Cloud, all of us are using the same tool. Anybody in our company can go and so to speak, run the flag up the flagpole that says, we've got an issue with this account. So whether it's somebody in consulting, somebody in sales, it all shows up here, and all of our executives have some sort of this red account component on their dashboard. So third, what I look at is bookings, right? Like a lot of support businesses, we do have a bookings component and a P&L that we run, and so I need to make sure that we're partnering. More accurately, David is partnering with his sales leaders to make sure that we're driving those attach rates. So another lens into customer sat, this is just an example of how we slice and dice it. Because it all comes up and is integrated into the Service Cloud, you can see that at any given day I can go and I can move it around by region or by service level or by different outsourcers if I want to understand how they're performing against one another, by service type, etc. So you can imagine you can slice and dice this in many ways. And how does that work? It works really because it shows up, if you look at the bottom there, just like any case. So no matter what channel it is that these inquiries or information, so to speak, is coming into your contact center, be it the phone, be it media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is, your community, chat, all those things, it all really goes in as a case. And the same with our surveys. Our surveys go in as a case. So you can see here, and I don't do this every day, I'll tell you that much. But if I get a customer escalation or we know that we've got a particular issue, I can drill in from that dashboard into a report, which you see here in the purple, and then actually into the record. So having access to that information real time and being able to go and drill in just like that, maybe when I get that panicked phone call from my boss or when I get that call from Mark because he loves to give his email address to all of you, I have this information right at my fingertips, which is pretty impressive. So moving a little bit over to David. David is really responsible for the business of Premier Support. So at Salesforce, we know that our Premier Support customers are happier. We know they have higher customer sat numbers. We know that they're more likely to stay with us. We know that they're more likely to use other pieces of our product than what they originally started with. So it's important to us and to, we believe, our customers to really be on that level of service that delivers the additional value to them. So David wants to understand attach rates. He wants to understand, of all the licenses that we're selling every month or quarter, what percentage of those are attached to some level of Premier Support. We know that drives success with our customers. He does that, as you can see, all in the app. All of this is derived from opportunities. So that partnership with sales and having the Sales Cloud and the Service Cloud all on the same implementation is really powerful in this respect. He also takes a look at renewal opportunities. So while he doesn't own the renewal number for the company, he does own the renewal number for Premier Support. And it's important for him to understand what's in his pipeline and what stage it's at and what the likelihood of it closing is. So he's got all that information right here. And then bookings. We talked about that a little bit with myself. That one shows up on my dashboard as well. But really where the rubber hits the road for David and how he gets to those higher level metrics is proactive delivery. He has a team of folks called Support Account Specialists who are really responsible for partnering with our customers and making sure that they are getting the level of service they expect. So whether that be SLAs in terms of case management, at any given time, if you look at the screenshot here with the yellow, any one of those SASs or Support Account Specialists can own 20 accounts. And you can imagine on any given day, given that anyone can call us, those accounts can log quite a few tickets, one that one individual wouldn't be able to manage. So a tool actually owns the group of people who are experts in each one of those product areas and manage those tickets. But David's people need a way to see that. They need to understand what's going on with their customers. They need to understand hot issues, where an escalation might be required. And they just go in and take a look at a case list view, and they've got it all right there. You also see health status next to that. So you saw that on my dashboard of red, yellow, green account, or red accounts, excuse me. David's team also looks at that, right? So from his whole patch, He needs to understand what percentage of his accounts are in red, yellow, green, and what direction they're moving, and then put some action plans in place based on that information. And then finally, usage history. So this is just a little snapshot of something they do, but if you're a Premier Support customer, we'll sit down with you on a monthly or quarterly basis and say, hey, we see that you aren't using analytics, and analytics is really powerful in terms of unleashing the value of Salesforce. Let's talk about how to do that. Or we see you're not using dashboards. Let's talk about what we can put in place to really help you. So just a couple examples of how David's team really, it's two pieces, right? There's where the rubber meets the road and what you actually make decisions on and how you prioritize day to day. Then there's also the high-level metrics in which those roll up into. So moving over to a tool. A tool is the guy who's kind of the nuts and bolts of every support organization. Without this stuff, you don't have support, right? If you don't have a mechanism by which to gather all the input channels and everything that's coming into your organization, route it, assign it, escalate it, you're in trouble. So we do all this with Salesforce. And just for example's sake, to give you an idea of some of the complexity at a very high level, when we look at all the channels that come into us, we really see the questions coming in 5 key buckets. And those are those buckets you see here. It might not make complete sense to you. They do to us. But anyway, you can see that they also might get assigned to a support account specialist, which are those folks on David's team, or they might go to Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, or maybe even QA R&D. And all of that is managed, and Q&A, by the way, and our R&D teams are on Salesforce as well, and they look at the Service Cloud the same way that we do. So all of that routing, escalation, assignment, workflow, everything is managed in the Service Cloud. So a couple things that really drive what a tool does and how he makes all of that happen and how he meets those service levels. So case volume. He needs to understand where cases are coming from, how many cases, what type of cases, what functional areas, by service level, by service entitlement, all of that. Just an example over there where you can see that that's what he looks at. He also looks at open cases, so understanding where he has open cases and maybe potentials for escalation or where he needs to put more resources on a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it might be basis. Productivity. I think all of you in the support business know that productivity is a really important metric, and understanding how you're trending there and what you can do to meet your productivity targets is important in terms of meeting your cost numbers. And then finally, backlog. Backlog for us is a great indicator of escalation and customer sat, so we know that if our backlog is growing too high or at a too great of rate, then we're going to have to move some resources down or move some resources around or augment in some way. So those are really just a couple key insights. I think we wanted to give most of our time today really to the panel and to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. So in summary, really the 4 key things that we focus on and what makes us successful with our products are leveraging every part of the Service Cloud, but only what's appropriate. Right? I think it can be overwhelming to try to consume it all at once and to take in case and to take in knowledge and then to get your arms around social media. So doing it in an iterative way or in a way that makes sense and is really tailored for your organization is absolutely the best way to do it. We've been moving forward and implementing new pieces and parts of the Service Cloud over the years. So there's always something new and there's always the thing coming around the corner, and having the scalability and the ability to do that and try things is really important and really powerful. Number 2, pick the right partners. So I talked a little bit about LiveOps and I talked a little about ClickTools. Those are 2 really key partners, and you can see that a lot of the information that these guys need and that I need to manage day to day really does come from those partners. So don't pick a lot, keep it lean and keep it clean, but you got to find the right ones. And then making customer satisfaction, loyalty, retention, whatever it is, some flavor of that usually is what should drive your support organization and those decisions. And then finally, collaborate. So we talked a little bit about how we collaborate with sales, how we collaborate with other parts of the organization for either the P&L side of the business or red accounts, whatever that is. But it really is a powerful tool, if for nothing else, visibility, and having a place where you can all go for a system of record and understanding what's going on with your customers. So with that, I am going to pass it back over to Karen, and she will get our panel started.
Great. Thank you so much, Krista. So I want to invite every one of you to come and visit us over at the Success Team booth. We're right behind the Service Cloud area. You're going to meet many of our support analysts and support specialists to find out more if you're interested. And, of course, we have all kinds of great gifts and raffles for you. So let's move on to our panel section of our discussion. I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves, and let's start with David.
Sure. I don't think my mic is working, so I'm going to have to use the mic. So I'm David Dickerson, Director of Premier Support. And as Krista mentioned, I'm responsible for the proactive side of the business with the support account specialist. So for those of you not familiar with that, if you have Premier Support and you have Premier Support plus admin, we'll assign a designated support account specialist to your account. And you might have talked to some of them in the success clinics out there on the floor, but they deliver the proactive elements and they're assigned to you to deliver that personalized experience.
Thank you, David.
I think my mic is working. Excellent. Paul Lang, I'm the Senior Vice President of Product Management for our contact center in the cloud platform at LiveOps.
Krista Anderson. If you don't know who I am, you might have been sleeping for the past 20 minutes.
Hi, and I'm Atul, and my mic is working. So I'm responsible, like Krista said, for all our cases. Whenever people call in for a basic support case or premier support case, my teams actually get the call or they take the case online, and they're the ones that actually deal with the cases.
Great. Thank you, Atul. So I have a starter question for each of our panelists. Paul, we're going to start with you. You're the Senior Vice President of Product Management at LiveOps. So LiveOps is our CTI partner, and just like us, they run their business and they deliver service entirely in the cloud. So, Paul, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how some of your, maybe 2-3 of your key benefits that you offer and your core offering.
Thank you, Karen. So, as both Karen and Krista mentioned, we offer a contact center in the cloud platform, which is part of our business. We also have a workforce in the cloud platform that I'm not really going to go into for today's purposes. Really what we're offering is an end-to-end, fully featured contact center suite. We're fully integrated with Salesforce. So all of the elements of the contact center platform delivered from the cloud, from routing, through reporting, through monitoring, through recording, and then a whole set of analytics capabilities, both in real time and across time, providing information for the contact center Premier Manager and for the operations manager to manage their business, powering the contact center, be it within the country or across countries, offering global routing, tiered routing, with the full-time information for those decisions to be made both in real time and across time. In the case of Salesforce, we provide real-time monitoring and insight into what's going on for the contact center platform. And for historical, we're actually providing a feed of our call detail records into Service Cloud for them to produce their own analytics.
Great. Thank you so much, Paul. Maybe, Krista, if you can follow with, just let us know why we chose LiveOps as our CTI partner for our global contact center GCC implementation.
Sure. So a couple key pieces. Obviously, just the basic functionality. You know, can you route calls globally? Can you do skills-based routing? What is your agent attribute? All of that. What does that look like? Do you have the tight integration to Salesforce? What was really important for us was, do we have the ability to take all that happens in LiveOps and pull it into Salesforce and run the same analytics? So they're actually doing a session tomorrow where you'll get a preview of what those analytics look like. But just like you saw the dashboards today, we have dashboards that show all that information coming in from LiveOps. And then I think, so there's a little bit of the technology piece, certainly integration, and then partnership. You know, there are a couple, I think you all know, the traditional, at least on-prem, telephony vendors out there, some big names. But in terms of being in the cloud was really important for us. And the partnership. That was kind of the biggest thing, is really the ability to work with us, to understand our business, and to kind of go on the journey with us. And they've done that 10 times over and are still doing it.
Great. David, I have a question for you. So you manage our Premier Support account team, and also you're responsible for growth and retention and our success of our customers. So can you tell us how you use the Service Cloud to do that?
Sure. I'll give you two aspects of it, one from a delivery standpoint and then one from a retention revenue standpoint. When we talk about from the delivery side and being proactive with the support account specialists, I think you saw some of the list views that Krista pulled up, but primarily when it comes to case management, we look at a list view of all the accounts that our account specialists are assigned to, and they look at the cases on a daily basis and periodically throughout the day to see where they are in the SLA process. So if we missed any SLAs or response times, then we can proactively reach out to the customer, or we can proactively escalate the case through the application. So that's one big benefit. And then when we talked about health status and we talk about retention and growth, we can also track service entitlements and track when renewals are approaching. And based on the renewal, if the health status of the customer is yellow or red, then we do some proactive follow-up as far as 6 months before the renewal to make sure we can protect that renewal through some enhanced delivery and find out what all the issues are. Then we do CSAT trending as well, which you saw, and we'll look at CSAT results, and then we'll set checkpoint meetings to address some of the CSAT issues. I think the biggest thing I like is, after being in the industry for about 20 years, working with Clarify, Oracle, and PeopleSoft, it's the integration with the sales side. So we look at opportunities, and we can work with the sales reps to see if there's any opportunities out there that don't have Premier attached to them, so then we can put some programs in place to work with the account teams to sell Premier support on the front end. And we can do the same on the back end for the renewal.
Great, thank you, David. And Atul, you're responsible for technical support team and also service delivery. How do you make this work?
For me, there's really 4 what I call pillars of success that we rely on my team. So the first is I believe we have the best case management tool out there, and all the stuff that Krista just showed you is really easy firstly to set up, to configure. It's extremely flexible. We can look at any sort of view that we want by a skill group. We can drill down. There's a lot of power in that tool, and I can vouch for it because I've come from an on-premise background. It's not as easy as what we had. So I think case management is the first thing that I think is really important for our success. The second one is our knowledge management tool, or what we call Salesforce Knowledge. And it's great because for all of you who are in support here, you know just how important it is to capture that knowledge that your reps capture with every single case out there. So, most reps, they have all this knowledge in their heads, they need to put it into a solution. And with Salesforce Knowledge, it's really easy. Every time you close a case, you can click a button, create a knowledge-based article. That article gets used by other reps when they get a call. They can rate the article, it can publish the article. So I think that's huge for us. It really helps to be more efficient and answer cases faster. The third thing for me is really our contact management solution in the cloud. So that's what we just talked about with LiveOps, Paul. So that's huge again, because what we can do is we've got centers across the world. We've got different tiers of support. We've got internal reps. We've got outsourcers. But when we all work as one team. We have common queues. No one knows if it's an employee or if it's an outsourced rep. It's just really, really easy to set up, easy to configure. We can see every single thing as to what the reps are, whether the reps are logged in, what are they doing. And in fact, there's sometimes just too much data. And right now, we don't even know what to do. So we're starting to really process it. It's great. It's awesome. So we really have a good view into the business. I'd say the last thing is really our analytics tool, the reporting. So all the dashboards you saw, we live and die by this. So CSAT, productivity, backlog. And you can drill in really, really easily to whatever level of detail you want to go to, whether teams or reps or anything. It's real time. It's available. You don't have to wait for IT to run it for you. So I think those are really the 4, again, just case management, Salesforce Knowledge, our contact center tool, LiveOps, and our analytics package, which is available to us in the cloud.
Great, thanks, Atul. You actually talked about this concept of one team. So actually, it's a question for both of you. How do we make our outsources be part of this one team so that we can deliver a seamless service experience?
Sure. So I started earlier and I said, we are all on the same tools, and that's most important. So from what we call Global Contact Center, which is a LiveOps solution, to the Service Cloud and the physical technology that's sitting behind it, we are all on the same tools. So when a rep gets in and they're a salesforce.com employee and they sit down at their desk and they log into their phone and they log into their agent desktop or their console, whatever you call it at your company, they're logging into the exact same tools that our outsourcers are. So they truly have the same access to everything that our people do. And this hasn't traditionally been possible for security reasons, integration, availability of information, but because of our multi-tenant architecture, or not really the multi-tenancy, it's just the SaaS piece of it, that allows them to access it anywhere with certain security measures and then different views into it, it really enables that relationship. And, you know, this is more of kind of the psychology 101 piece of it, but we treat them as our employees. And just because you're an outsourcer, you don't get different tools, different incentives, whatever it is. You sort of get the same feel, or at least we really strive for that with our outsourcers, the same feel and the same treatment that you would get anywhere.
I'll just add one more thing. I mean, we all know what the economy is like these days. And we know that, you know, you obviously want to try and look for tools that help you be more efficient, give the customer a better experience. With LiveOps, we've been able to leverage resources across different teams, across the outsources, across our different geos, and really share queues. And I think that's really important to understand, because no more do we have to add 10 people, you know, in XYZ location just because we've seen a bump in volume. You can just simply use LiveOps to route cases intelligently to the right skill group at the right level, and that's really, really critical for us. So we've really seen a payback pretty much instantly from our investment.
Great. Anything you'd like to add, Paul?
No, I think actually the importantly, just as important was the collaboration across the teams. You know, we've rolled out a global contact center from starting planning early in the year, but effectively starting rollout in April, and then completing that rollout across the globe, across the 9, soon to be 10 locations in a period of really 5 to 6 months, which, from my experience from the premise side of the world, is completely unheard of. Yeah. And both due to the planning and the partnership, and also, you know, I would say it, wouldn't I, from delivering it from the cloud. It's made it easier, more collaborative, and we've found a valuable partner.
Great, and you just touched on speed. I think that's another key part.
I mean, it's similar to the same benefits that you get when you purchase a service cloud, right? Just the speed and the time to implementation, time to see value has been pretty incredible. He also didn't mention that we rolled it out in how many languages?
10.
Was it 10? Yeah, 10 languages in that same period of time over those sites. And we're growing. So we're going live with another site in January, probably one more in June. And that's all become very easy, clockwork for us.
Great, fantastic. I'm going to open it up to audience Q&A, and hopefully you have a lot of good questions for us. But go ahead.
So we've interviewed a handful of developers, and they have reported back to us that they use Facebook and Twitter, you know, in the community, and get a lot of more technical questions. With the Service Cloud, does that help your organization to pull in a lot of that knowledge that's in the community so that you can help with finding articles and what we're learning in Service Cloud?
Yeah, we do. In fact, our developers support people. If you have a call for an Apex issue or Visual Force, the first place they'll probably look at is our our forums, which are publicly available, and we've got users all the time asking questions and posting answers. So we definitely do.
I have a question. Sorry. Right here?
Good. Go ahead.
Of your 400 service reps, can you talk to us about the KPIs you use to measure the quality and the effectiveness of your reps? So I know CSAT is probably a major KPI. Can you talk to us about some other metrics you use to measure your reps?
Sure, I'll take that. So CSAT, as we just said, and we break CSAT down by team, by location, by outsourcer versus employees. We vote it all up. We also look at productivity, so how many cases can a rep close in a given day. We look at things like average days open, average days to close. We look at backlog. There's just a host of metrics. But those are probably the 4 or 5 that are most important.
But each agent actually has a scorecard that they know at the beginning of every review period, which for us is twice a year, what percentage of that comes from customer sat, and it's about, 35, 40%, depending on who it is. And then what percentage, there's a soft skills percentage, so courtesy, professionalism, all of that. And then, like the tool mentioned, there's the productivity metrics.
And all the managers can look at the data anytime they want to, but even the reps know exactly where they are, where they stack up against their peers. It's all available. They just have access to the same dashboards.
And the other thing I like to add from a proactive standpoint is we put together a customer experience we want to deliver. So one of the things we're measuring as support account specialists is on how well they're delivering that experience, from onboarding the customer to providing them with an annual health check and then a year in review, and the phases that they go through to make sure we're being proactive enough to secure the renewal and the customer loyalty. So we measure compliance of that delivery, along with the qualitative CSAT.
Have certain emphasis on, for example, CSAT more so than, let's say, the life cycle of your customer?
Yeah, most of it is weighted on the CSAT side, so it's like a 70-30, so 70% CSAT, but then we break CSAT down into transactional versus designated contact surveys that go out with more qualitative results.
Thank you. I think we had one over there. So the question is, what was the technology infrastructure used before LiveOps?
We had separate implementations of Cisco IPCC Express at each one of our sites. And the maintenance of those sites and the fact that they didn't talk to one another and we couldn't look at our agents as a global skill group versus regional/geographic groups was one of the primary reasons for moving over.
Yes.
With your global support centers, when you look at agent productivity and the fact that you get visibility to that, do you run into any data privacy rules in a global environment?
So from an agent perspective, no.
Germany and France, or stuff?
We don't have agents in Germany or France.
We have a question in the back. Thank you.
Yes, hi. My question is for Atul. You have I noticed you have three different tiers of support: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. What are the different ratios of clients to support agents that you staff for each one of those levels?
So we don't specifically go by number of clients necessarily. We look at number of cases per rep. So we've got targets. So for instance, our Tier 1, we have about 12 to 15 cases a rep. That's what we can average. And they do about 70-80% of our cases they're able to resolve at Tier 1. Tier 2 is typically about 7 cases a day. And we typically escalate about 10% of our cases from Tier 1 to Tier 2. And the Tier 3 doesn't really work cases actively. They do escalations. And so whatever Tier 2 cannot resolve, Tier 3 works on, and they work with R&D.
Yes, right here.
Along those lines, for both, how do you manage the handoff or the continual pursuit of resolution of cases across multiple time zones, multiple staff locations, things like that?
That's such a relevant question because we're working on that right now. In fact, we just had a meeting yesterday to talk about it. So that's great. So we do that. We are 24/7 for Premier customers. What we do is we actually use the app to send the cases that we consider hot cases. So again, like I mentioned earlier, the app is extremely flexible. And for those of you who've come from an on-premise background, you know that when you have to add a field, typically you got to go to IT and say, I need to add this field. Can I do this? And, this database impact. What we did just this last week is we've added a couple of fields that basically any rep can check and say, this case needs to be handed over because I'm working on it. The customer is going to need help at night. Boom, it gets flagged, right? End of the day, we basically run a report that takes all those checked cases, rolls them up, fires off an email to the next geo. Then we get on a call with the next geo, and we say 5 p.m., APAC comes online, and we talk about what cases we've sent, what you need to do, and back and forth. And then every rep across every part of the world has access to the same case, right? It's the same case management system. You can see all the notes. They update it. They do the same thing. It turns around, goes to the next geo, and that's how we manage cases.
So the use of queues and reporting, you manage the handoff.
Yes.
Yes.
You indicated that you've been using the application since the beginning. Application as a whole. The beginning were data solutions. Later on, we have content. Now there is knowledge. Could you indicate a little bit how you organize learning and the organization through your solutions to knowledge, event all? That's something which is happening?
Yeah, that's timely. So we acquired a company called Instranet, for those of you who don't know, about a year and a half ago, I believe now, and that's now known as Salesforce Knowledge, and it's one of the modules that's available on the Service Cloud. And we recently implemented that in our team and have really moved from a traditional kind of solution-oriented, you have a case, you do the search, you attach it, and you go, to more of a KCS methodology. And that takes a while. It's not something that happens overnight, but it takes a while to make that transition. But the idea is that with Knowledge, we're rolling out a new portal this spring. And that knowledge product sits in that portal and will allow our customers to go in there and obviously search and do the dimensional search and all the things that you would expect. But it will also allow them to search across all the other properties that we have, so the forums, social media, communities, any of that, and get that additional information. We will, yeah, we will. I mean, it'll all be migrated over. Yep.
We've taken the solutions today, we've taken the relevant solutions and already made them knowledge articles. So yeah, we have.
Actually, I want to ask the audience a question because that's a really good point. So we are true believers of knowledge center support. That's where we're moving. And I'm actually curious if you can, with show of hands, how many of you have KCS? Okay, great. Next question? Yes.
Is there any burstiness in your traffic, like you've got a new release or whatever? And if so, how do you think the new cloud-based contact center will impact your ability to support a burstiness in your traffic?
So yes, there is burstiness. We see release traffic, right? And then we also have a January phenomenon. So every January, people are back to work and we feel it. So it's not necessarily how it impacts that contact center. I think it's how the contact center supports it, and it supports it seamlessly. We don't have to do anything. What we do have to do is we have to plan for those from a resource perspective and ramp the people, 3 to 4 months in advance, whatever it takes to train.
And from a contact center perspective, you can really add agents within seconds, and you can move them to different skill groups. So that really handles the volume that we see.
Yes.
You guys mentioned earlier that for tier 1 support, you actually have a target of 12 to 15 cases, and you mentioned earlier that the complexity of each case can be different. Is there a way to track not just the aging of a particular case, but what effort is spent by each agent to solve that particular case? Is there a way to track that?
We do.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, one way we track it is like admin minutes spent on a case. So, for example, for the support account specialists, we spend a lot of time dialoguing with customers about adopting the application, and they can log on the case how many admin minutes they spend. So one of the things we're doing around capacity planning as we bring on more organizations is figuring out on average how many minutes or how much time is taken up to support an account so we can properly forecast our staff as well from an account management standpoint. Yeah.
Yes.
Atul mentioned that in some cases are handed off to the evening staff or whomever to resolve. Why wouldn't you do that with all cases, given that all the agents have access to all the information, so that a case isn't necessarily owned by an individual, but just moves through whomever to get it resolved as quickly as possible?
You could, and as much as you would expect that, maybe the customers will want you to work the case at night. Many times customers stop at 5 o'clock and they're gone for the day. And you may be working with R&D, or you may be so deep into the case that it's probably less efficient to move the case over versus you come back the next morning and take it over. So just the cases which we feel like really the customer wants us to work through the night, we know it could blow up or whatever, those are the ones we do transfer.
That said, by breaking down those walls, so to speak, between the geographies and what the phone technology has allowed us to do, we're actually going to be re-architecting all of our assignment and our queues to support that. Now, we still have different SLAs that different customers have, and some require us to route around the clock, and there are certain scenarios where we just wouldn't anyway. But we are going to be moving to this concept of global queues where all tier 1 works on the same queue, and it's just first in, first out, right? But we do have different, if you look at our concentration of agents, of the 400, I think 300 are in North America, and then the other 100 are spread out across the world. So you don't have that capacity elsewhere in non-North America hours.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the methodology you use to disseminate the information, the support information out to other groups like AEs or partners or other people that need to know about the account?
Yeah, one of the things we do with the app, so like I mentioned, for an AE, for example, we take a look at opportunities. So, it could go vice versa. So when we look at opportunities and we see an opportunity out there that's about to close and there's no support attached, obviously some of you want to drive growth in the support organization as well. So we send out emails through the app to contact them, to give them information on how to sell it, point them to content. So that kind of links them back to content. But then the other piece is if an account executive is on site and there's a major escalation that they've been approached with, they can escalate in the app as well back to us.
And there's a great feature within the app that it's internal to us, but anybody in the company can just click on a link and say escalate to management, and within 60 minutes, a manager will respond to the case. They'll escalate. It's escalated to them. They'll drive it to resolution. So it's definitely a great feature.
In the back.
Yeah, as we've discussed, customer satisfaction and measurement is really important. I'm curious, what kind of tools are you using to measure customer sat, and how does that integrate with Salesforce in particular? If you got contacts in Salesforce or contacts on a case, or how does that work?
Sure. So we use a partner called ClickTools, and ClickTools fires off all those surveys, and I mentioned there are transactional surveys, quarterly surveys, demographic, right? And that's all integrated into the case object. So each survey shows up as a case. And so those cases are linked to, the surveys, which are a case, are linked to the case itself, to the contact, to the company, whatever it is. So you can actually drill down into that. I'm sorry, it's a custom object. And the custom object is linked to the case and the contact and the account, just like you would expect any other custom object.
Yes.
Questions for the tool. We use Salesforce, and on our escalations, my question is, when you escalate to the next tier, do you actually hand the case to that engineer, or is it staying the original person that has the interaction with the customer? How do you handle it from tier 1 to tier 3?
Sure. So from tier 1, we actually place it in a queue for tier 2. So we check a box, sits in a tier 2 queue, and then any tier 2 rep in that skill group can pick it up. And we've got it. Takes ownership of the case. From tier 2 to tier 3, it's a little different. So we actually click a little checkbox which says escalate to tier 3. The tier 2 rep maintains ownership, so they communicate with the customer, they deal with the business impact, while the tier 3 is the one that really tries to provide the technical solution, deals with R&D, and gets the fixes.
And it's interesting because the flip side of that is how we do proactive support. So maybe, David, you want to elaborate a little bit what our support account specialists do?
So if you have a support account specialist, and for example, you saw in the chart that Krista showed, if you need, it gives you an opportunity to bypass and come directly to the SaaS who knows your account and your environment, and they have direct access to a tools team right into tier 3. So that's the beauty of the app, is we communicate through the app with a tools team back and forth. But one of the things they do is they quarterback the process. So you may have to escalate to tier 3, they may have to escalate to R&D, you may have to get partners involved, but the support account specialist can quarterback that whole process through the application.
Yes, in the back.
That's a great question. So the truth is, it's really hard to really give all 3 people credit for that. It's usually the last person. But we do have the ability to create child cases. So if there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the case, you can potentially create a child case. So the next person actually has a case.
Well, and for your KPIs, the CSAT portion isn't a portion of CSAT individual, and then a portion is group.
Exactly. So scorecards have, every rep gets rated on the overall CSAT that we get, as well as their individual CSATs that customers give them.
Yes.
As you expanded the number of service channels that you offer in the cloud, have you noticed a key difference in economics per channel in terms of what your cost per case?
Not yet, but we really have just started to venture into the social side of it, and that takes a while to figure out. We know our baseline. We do know that with at least live ops, we've taken some pretty significant numbers, 2 minutes off of a lot of our calls. So right now it's about 20% of our calls. Our goal is to get that caller ID match closer to 35%. And when we get there, for every 2 minutes you take off every call, you can imagine what that does to your, right. But in terms of the other Service Cloud components or channels, not yet. But if you ask me that question in 6 months, I'll probably have a different answer for you.
Yes.
What we've seen here is when it starts working, when the question is addressed, we're also focused on
So that's another baseline metric is where we are today on that one. Coming in spring, and if you want to see a preview of what it will look like in the campground, there is a video that we have of our new help and training portal. And that's exactly about giving customers answers or giving them access to all that knowledge, going across all of our sites with that search, and then allowing them to manage their cases there in a much more robust fashion than we do today. And that technology is driven out of the Service Cloud. So it's a combination of customer portal, Visualforce, and sites.
And actually, we have a session on that tomorrow, or actually on Friday, specifically on our new help and training and how this is a two-part series. So this was a global view of how we use the Service Cloud, and then we have a specific session on how we use the Service Cloud for e-service. So please come to that. And also, as Krista mentioned, in the campgrounds, in our success team area, we're demoing the new help and training, so you can experience and see how it's going to be. It's going to be launching next year. Yes.
So we actually have a pretty strong response rate. I think our response rate goes somewhere between 7 and 10%, which is high. And so we haven't quite honestly put any efforts into increasing that response rate. But we do pay close attention to how often we hit them. It's really important that we don't hit them more than once in any 90-day period. And we hit them with different content when we do. So we pay a lot of attention to that. And it's short. Short is important.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a part of their solution. Yep.
It's customizable, so you can actually, we have full control over the formula. It's really formula driven, so you can change it, say 45 days, 60, 90. Don't send it to this group, don't send it to this, send it to this group. You can do all that if you wanted to.
And I think one more value add about using the app related to CSAT is we've set up some rules that if we get a CSAT below a certain score, we get a trigger to the manager to follow up with the customer on why. So we can do some proactive planning on why we're getting low CSATs for a particular area.
Yes, in the back.
Hi, yes, this question's for David. For Premier Support, generally it takes time to ramp up an agent. Obviously, they're providing a much higher level of support than general support. How long does it usually take to ramp up a rep, and what's your experience in terms of hiring in advance in order to be able to, accommodate for obviously sales, as you were discussing earlier?
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting you asked that. So what we do is a number of things. So since we have a view to the opportunities, we're starting to forecast the pipeline opportunities on how many accounts we may bring on a monthly basis. So based on that and based on our given attach rate history, we can plan for how many orgs we might receive or accounts. And then as far as your question on how we plan for that, then if we can use sort of a utilization rate, if you will, on how many admin minutes or how much time it would take per SaaS to service an account, we can figure out how many headcount we need for the future. As far as the time to take it to ramp up, it may take anywhere from 3 to 4 months. And the one value you receive with the support account specialists is that they're all certified as admins, admin 201, 301, Dev 501, and then all our Dev 505 and all our classes. So they're fully certified. And that process can take anywhere from 2 to 3 months. But when they come on board, we have them mentored by one of our senior analysts to kind of speed up that process as well.
Great. Yes.
How do you manage skill groups? Can someone be part of more than one skill group, or do you use profiles for that? How do you manage that system?
So you could have, shutting off here. Okay, so you could have multiple skill groups, but we try and have each person assigned to one skill group, but we have the ability to add a secondary skill group if you wanted to. And so we do that for like overflows. So if a queue is not that busy, we have people work multiple skill groups. Adding skill groups?
Yeah, so if you trigger overflow based on call volume and there is an available agent that automatically add that skill group to that person without having to manually add the skill?
I don't.
It'll roll over.
It rolls over through the phone system. LiveOps does roll over. So we've got different routing rules. So we say hit the developer skill group first at tier 2. If everybody's busy, roll over to XYZ skill group. If they're busy, roll over to this other geo if they're online. So we've got all these rules. So yeah, we can.
The thing I'd add is we can do that either via a weighting capability or a skill group capability. We also have a notion from a call queue for a static call priority. So, for example, if a certain category of customer comes in, we can apply a fixed weighting to that customer plus the weighting based on queue time, based on availability of agent. So we can apply many factors into how that queue weighting takes into account. As we've been working with Salesforce, we're rolling out the platform, we're rolling it out across the world, and then we'll work on a continuing basis to optimize that routing, working with Salesforce.
Thanks, Paul. Yes?
Yeah, I was wondering if you had some way when you're evaluating your cases to see, is this, besides being agent-specific, if you have particular areas of the application that you're getting, let's say lots on reports or lots on formula fields, so you can feed that back to your product, your own product teams.
Sure. We absolutely do. So we have something that we call the general functional area, which is sort of a higher level. So it could be developer support, for example, would be general functional area, general application area. Below that, we have something called the functional area, which could be Apex code or Visual Force. You can run reports that show you exactly what the case volume is, at what group, what location. And what we do is we have something called top support calls. It's an internal project. We essentially, every quarter, we take the top 5 areas, types of issues we have. We roll them up into a dashboard within the app, which is what PMs use to actually understand what's important, and they drill down, and then those are the features that they try and build out for the next release. So we're tightly integrated thanks to the app.
And one of the beauties of that is that we'll sit down with you on an annual basis as one of the SaaS responsibilities and educate you on where the calls are coming up from your end users. So then we can recommend training in different areas based on what your call history might be with us. So then that feeds in opportunities from a training perspective.
Great. Any other questions? Yes.
Do the tools support telecommuting, and do Salesforce using telecommuting for the
The tools that we use absolutely do support telecommuting and work from home agents or whatever you want to call it. We make use of it, but not on a programmatic or system-wide basis. So, certain folks who, for whatever reason, need to work from home, or it's a reward to work from home, or we do have a couple folks who are remote who work from home. Our challenge is our product is still growing in complexity, and as all you know, and those of you who have participated in Dreamforce in the years past, know that every year the solutions we put to market, it's pretty incredible what we put out there. And so you can imagine on the other side of the house, trying to train and keep people up to speed on that, that truly is our biggest challenge from the work from home model. It's not the technology piece. It's training and enablement.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, the technology that we deploy from a live ops perspective enables effectively agent anywhere. So whether it be home, remote location, we provide insight and visibility, but to Krista's point, it's what's the policy, what's the motivation, and how that's going to be managed across their global contact center, which is possibly more a concern than the technology that we both deploy.
Yeah.
Great. Yes.
Sure. So I'm sure you've all seen the education certification or training certifications around the campground, or have heard about it in some of the sessions. We require our agents to be certified, and different levels of agents have different levels of certification. And then we have an LMS system, which will ultimately be built native on the platform. Right now it's separate, and we've integrated it in our environment, but it's not a product offering that's out there to our customers yet.
One of the features that we do have today that we use or leverage is sites. So for instance, on technical support, all our skill groups they provide content on sites that are, videos, webinars that they've conducted for training within that skill group, which is accessible anywhere in the world by any rep, Salesforce or outsource. We can also use content. We can put content up within the app, so anyone can click on a link and boom, you have access to that training. So we've got all sorts of ways today.
Great, thanks, Atul. We have time for 2 more questions. Anyone? Okay, then great. Thank you so much. So, one more thing. As you know, tonight is the Global Gala with the Black Rose, and we're giving away authentic Black Rose T-shirts over at the Success Team area. Come and get yours. Thank you.